Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the zoo. The minion with me this evening, at least for the time being, is Adam.
Hello.
We may or may not get joined by a Skeptock. It depends on if he got his nap earlier on.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it is once again a Friday. I'm the keeper for this evening, Sanguine. How are you doing tonight, Adam?
I'm doing all right. Glad it's Friday. Glad it's the weekend.
Nice. For me, it is the last night of my weekend
Oh, oh yeah.
before I go back to work tomorrow night.
Damn. Damn, I keep forgetting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
So,
it's your Sunday, and then when I chat with Terry on Monday, it's his Tuesday.
mm-hmm.
Ah, time. How does it work?
Nice. But yeah, it is absolutely a great night for me thus far.
Oh,
Enjoying a ridiculous dinner.
what'd you cook for dinner?
Tonight, I did a 24-hour dry brine to New York strip steak that I seared off in a screaming hot cast iron skillet with some butter finished sauteed mushrooms, some more roast than just baked potatoes that I then tossed into a compound butter of toom and butter. I also spooned a bit of that toom and butter on top of my steak with an arugula salad that was made with a quick and easy vinaigrette. Drinks are my Woodford Reserve Kentucky Straight Rye Whiskey, which has a nice bit of spice to it, and a Breckenridge Vanilla Porter, which pairs beautifully with the rye whiskey.
Damn, bro, you got a nice set there.
Oh yeah, it is a absolutely fantastic dinner. So I've been enjoying that as I've been waiting for the show to start. Just about done with the dinner, and again, just good fucking god, is it delicious. So, what have you been up to today? Anything interesting happen on your end?
Um, Not really. I went to work. Um,
Mm.
and after work, I got a space heater from
Mm-hmm.
Meyer because it's fairly chilly in my room.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Bit
but
nipply.
but other than that, nothing, nothing too exciting, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I guess tomorrow I might go hang out with Quiz, and he said he's making shepherd's pie, something like that.
Oh, very nice. Is he actually making shepherd's pie with lamb, or is he going for cottage pie with beef?
Uh, I don't know.
Mm.
He just said if I wanted to stop by, so I figure I'll come over and try and get a stream out of it.
Mm-hmm.
uh, Play some arcade games with him. Um, but
Very nice.
yeah, I'll try some shepherd's pie as long as
Shepherd's
he's not
pie is
high.
absolutely fucking delicious. Cottage pie is also absolutely fucking delicious.
As long as he's not hiding any onions in there, I'll be good.
I'm going to abstain from speaking about this. But yeah,
That'd
shepherd's and
be
cottage pie, really damn good. And did you have any topics that you wanted to break into? Because I do have at least one topic that I'm slightly chomping at the bit for. Sadly, Skep hasn't shown up, so given that he was thinking either he would end up passing out before stream started or he would take a nap and then be up for the stream, I think he might be down for the count.
Well, we'll see. Maybe he pops in midstream. But in terms of topics to talk about, I don't know. I've been keeping up with the news all pretty much all week. So,
Hmm.
if there's something you want to bring up, I think I have a little bit of a means to talk about it. Nothing comes to mind in terms of like, oh shit, and it's crazy because we're constantly on the verge of the end of the world or World
Hmm.
War III. Uh, just now, or before I left work, I was reading a news bit about asteroid the size of a city, but it's just gonna pass us by miraculously again the same weekend, or another weekend. Um, More explosions at chemical plants and factory plants. There was a place in Louisiana where they had to quarantine off a mile wide area around this explosion. Um, the airfield in Syria got bombed, and what is our response going to be? Or even fucking Russia and China uh, talking about how they're gonna start, doing their own business together without dealing with the West. I mean, there
Yeah,
is,
they're trying to break from the petrodollar.
yep, there is a plethora of things to chat about. Um, but yeah, outside of that, you know me, man. I don't really. You can spark me up, but I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh, well, let me tell you some, unless it really, really hits my groove. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything like,
Percolates your pistachios.
yeah,
So,
outside that. I think I'm really gonna have to just shave my mustache off because it's annoying the fuck out of me. So I think I'm gonna go mustacheless for a while.
mm-hmm.
Should be fun. But
So there is one thing that I heard recently that will affect a couple of our viewers, I think, as well as it would have been something that it would be nice to have Skep's point of view on, because I'm willing to bet he would be as what the fuck is going on as I am. So the government has come up with a one of the finance offices that is meant to set up the budget and all that and put forward arguments for why their particular budget should be followed versus some other budget plan. So they came up with a fantastic way to save the government millions, if not billions, of dollars. So do you want to hear what their new plan is?
what's the new plan?
If you're injured vet, fuck you, is effectively the summary of their new plan. So if you're injured when serving in the military and you end up on disability, then there's a special veterans disability that you go through that gives you a variable amount of money every year, depending on what your rank was and how crippled you are. So the more crippled, the more money. And if you reach the point where you are designated as unable to work, then you get even more money. Makes sense, right? They sign up to fight for their country, they get injured, so their country should back them up and help them out with things. That part makes sense?
Yeah.
So the federal government has determined that a fantastic way of saving money is just fuck them. They don't get the money.
Hmm.
So it's a policy where for every dollar amount that you make over a fairly low arbitrary household income, because it's something like 120 combined household income, 120,000. So that is two people that work a $60,000 $1 a year job. For every dollar that you make over that, you lose percentage points off of your disability payment. To the point where eventually you reach zero and you get fucking nothing just because you started making too much money. But the thing is that the payment that you get from the disability. Oh, okay. So the McDonald said the plan is rejected. Fucking hell, that's good news. Because when I heard about this story,
Oh, yeah,
good
nice.
God damn, it was
Because that was sounding horrible.
infuriating. Yeah. I'll still go through what the plan was that they put forward, and I'll pull up the article that he just sent. But
Hey, thanks, Assassin.
yeah, thank you for that, Assassin. It was effectively disincentivizing work. Because if you're on disability and you work, you lose your disability. And any money that you make in work is, of course, taxable income, right? The disability payments were non-taxable. So you had to make a fuck ton more from working than you could through the disability payments in order to have it actually make mathematical sense that you would decide to lose your disability in order to be able to work. That's a bad situation to be in. You don't want to disincentivize people working. And okay, so I'll read through this as once I go through the original. So it was, if you make it beyond a certain amount, your disability was cut. Another part of the thing was that once you reach the age of retirement, the maximum age of retirement, according to, or full retirement rather, according to Social Security, you would lose all of your disability payment and you would be forced onto Social Security. And that would be your only means of getting money from the government at that point, would be Social Security. If you had the complete inability to work and you reached the full age of retirement, that would also be cut. Your additional payment for being incapable of working. Yeah, thankfully, someone with a mind ended up rejecting it, Assassin. He says that one reason they rejected this is bean counters would have been killed by veterans, which, as far as I'm concerned, if the federal government wants to cut its spending, a beautiful place that it can start is downsizing the federal government. And if you really want a particular area of the federal government that you can start with your downsizing, start with your EEO and your HR departments. Completely gut them. You don't need EEO departments the size that you have them. You don't need your HR department the size that you have them. Gut those. You pay those people a fuck ton more than you pay people that are actually doing the job. Just get rid of that in every section of the government, and the government will save money. And it will save a fuck ton more money doing that than it will by dicking over veterans. But yeah, it was every step of the way was, let's come up with new and interesting ways to fuck over injured veterans and not give them the money that we told them that we would give them if they should get injured now that they're injured. Then there would have been no recourse had it been accepted. So, see, that last one is the one that I will agree, yeah, don't fund it. The other ones could give interesting shit. Being able to do certain sorts of studies in order to figure out the actual method of various drugs working on model species, that's cool shit. That gives actual viable information. We're talking about a recommendation that was put forward by one of the financial advisory groups within the federal government, plague that was originally saying that a fantastic way for the federal government to save money is just fuck over injured vets. So, as Assassin sent this article in, the VA secretary swats down idea to cut VA disability pay for wealthier vets. This is the article about this, which is very good news that this was swatted down. Veterans' social media feeds erupted this week over a months-old report from the Congressional Budget Office that listed options for reducing the federal deficit, including an idea that the government could save over $253 billion over the next 2 years by eliminating disability compensations for veterans who make more than $170,000 a year. And that's not the veteran themselves making that, it's a combined household income. Each year, the CBO publishes proposals for reducing the federal deficit, which has reached nearly $723 billion since the beginning of fiscal year 2023. The latest list, published in December, but only garnering attention among veterans this week, called for means testing for veterans with higher income levels. Let's see. You make too much money, veterans who had both legs blown off. Yes, that's exactly what they were proposing. That if you have a bilateral amputation and you happen to still make enough money, your family makes enough money, even though you need medical attention, even though you need assistance that you only need because you served time in the government or in the military and got injured, fuck you. You make too much money. So, means testing higher income levels, but Veteran Affairs Secretary Dennis I don't know why I'm stumbling over this name right now. McDonough. Sorry, brain fart. Yes. Dennis McDonough shot down the idea on Thursday, saying the VA does not think that's a good idea. That is very lightly phrasing it. It should have been this idea is fucking mental. We think it's a bad idea, not even a very bad idea, just a bad idea, and we're not going to do it. You have my commitment that we won't do it, McDonough said. Go ahead, Adam.
I mean, at this point, is there any argument against whether or not these people are really just, they don't understand the type of legislature that they're pushing forward, or that they're really malicious? Like, this is some evil shit.
Yeah, it's either that they are so detached from humanity as would boggle the mind, or there's some evil fucks that wrote this down.
Yeah, I mean, even because, look, even if you're like, oh, but they're gonna get a nice big fat paycheck, it's like, cool, but there should be some shred of humanity there that they would sit there and be like, dude, that is a nice chunk of money, but holy shit, I am fucking over a lot of people, especially people that it wasn't like, oh, these people worked in a coal mine or something that's, you know, localized, not to diminish any of that, but
Mhm.
like, oh no, these were the people that went out and fought the phony wars that we were pushing for a decade. It's like we can't give them, you know, like the benefit. Like, we can't, bro. That's dude. That's getting out of hand. That, I mean, look, not even out of hand. It's just, to me, that's how I'm seeing it. It really is just evil people are incredibly stupid fucking people, and I don't.
You would hope that people can't be that stupid, but that leaves you with the answer that they're evil, which you
Yeah.
hope for even less.
I am in a conundrum.
Yeah.
Because I mean, otherwise, what else is it?
Yeah.
They can't honestly think that this is going to be of any benefit, especially to the people that the bill's going to be affecting. Like, this is, and
Yep.
here's the thing, yeah, this shit was going on a long time ago. Wasn't John Stewart going out about the fucking 9/11 people? So I
It
mean,
was the 9/11 responders. Yeah.
yeah, well, this is not anything new. It's just,
Yeah.
you know,
There was a comment that I do want to touch on from chat
oh,
saying that nobody cared about veterans until after 9/11. And if you look historically, there is kind of this up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down.
yeah.
It depends on how the war is looked at.
Yeah, I don't think anybody gave. Now, forgive me, I could be wrong and exaggerating, but I don't think anybody really cared about the Korean War veterans or the Vietnam War veterans.
Vietnam War vets were shit on mercilessly, and it
Well,
was
yeah,
fucked up the way that they were treated.
I would say
Korean War
the
were
curve
treated
went the other way.
the Korean War were treated much better than Vietnam, but not all that great. Now, when you go back to World War II vets, yes, please fuck my wife.
Yeah, even World War One vets were well, no, because didn't they were refused payments or something like that,
So
and they had to
the
go march.
thing that
I can't remember.
World
There
War
was
One
some.
vets got fucked over not so much by people looking down on them, they got fucked over by the fact that the economy completely goddamn shit the bed.
Oh well, yeah, yeah. I forgot the
Because the
depression.
house of cards that the government had been building due to Wilsonian policies that were then continued after Wilson collapsed, which then ended up with the dark day of Blackjack Pershing breaking up the Hoover town that was made of a shit ton of vets rolling in with goddamn tanks against fellow veterans. That was fucked up. But it's always been the more favorable the war was looked at, the better the support for the vets that came home from it. And that's why I still view the way that the Vietnam vets were treated was a massive failure of the government. Because they were the ones that fucked up so bad and changed things to the point where it was going to end up fucked up. When you start dropping the requirements for military service, you're going to end up with shittier people. When you start allowing criminals in, you're going to end up with fucked up things happening. And they allowed criminals in while they were dropping standards. Then we have a bunch of people that are being tarred and feathered with the brush of war criminals and baby killers. Because, yeah, there were some war criminals. Yeah, there were some baby killers. It wasn't the average troop in Vietnam. It was the fucked up sociopaths that we knew were fucked up sociopaths. And we went, yeah, join the military.
Dude, with that, it's um, with that. Okay, yeah, actually, that brings me to something I watched earlier today. Um, but no, with that, look, I would say in American history, you won't find a lot of your basic soldier, and this is a generalization and pretty much my opinion. Just gonna preface that. Let me, you know, work my magic debuffs before anybody says anything bullshit. No,
Mm-hmm.
throughout American history, proper American, uh, a lot of its soldiers were not going out there committing crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're right. There were a few outside actors,
There were
like yeah,
some fucked up people, and like I
yeah,
said, a good chunk of them were known to be fucked up and would have been denied at any other point. But because the federal government decided, you know what, let's throw prisoners at them.
yeah, no, yeah. No, well, even like I was thinking about there was the one guy in World War II where they had a whole bunch of German captors, and he was like, yeah, fuck it, you know,
Oh,
just
you're
blasted them
thinking
out.
of the God damn it, why can't I remember the name? It's an Italian town, is the
Mhm.
name of the incident. And there were two incidents back to back.
Yeah, and
One was,
that's why they booted him because he kept doing it. But
well, no, it was two incidents back to back where one of them was by a sergeant. He had a bunch of prisoners that he was leading in convoy. He was told to grab a couple of them for questioning. So he picked them out at random, then had all the other prisoners line up, grabbed a Thompson from one of the other sergeants, and went down the line shooting every single prisoner,
yeah,
except
that's
for the
one.
ones that he had pulled out for questioning. He got life in prison. Then there was the, I want to say, lieutenant. I think it was a lieutenant. It might have been a different, um, lower. It was some low ranking officer, which is why I'm thinking he was a lieutenant, was given the orders to take a hill and accept the surrender of a bunch of snipers from that hill. And his unit had just been fired on by them not terribly long ago. So he marched on the hill and ordered his men to kill them all. And while the Germans were trying to surrender, he gunned them all down. Both of them tried to say, well, Patton told us to do it. Because they misunderstood, but misunderstood in a slightly understandable way, what Patton was saying. Because Patton was not saying, prisoners that you've already accepted, fucking murk them. That is not what Patton said. Patton was saying that a couple different things. So the most generous interpretation of what Patton said
Well, hey,
is,
I'm glad you're doing this because I'm about to do Sherman next. So continue.
yep, the most generous interpretation of what Patton said is the Germans had a habit of faking surrender and then attacking those that were accepting their surrender. So be fucking careful when you accept surrender. The less charitable but still accurate way of saying what Patton might have been saying is that when you're moving up on the enemy, if they surrender before you're already in the thick of it, accept their surrender. If they only surrender when they're done for, fuck them. Don't accept their surrender. Wipe them out. That second one's pretty fucked up, but it's not fucked up to the point of, hey, these prisoners that we currently have handcuffed and chained together, shoot them. So the
Well,
sergeant
hold
got
on,
life in prison.
real quick.
Yep.
Can I say, would you know the distinction between the two?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Between the chained up prisoners and the you're in the middle of a war type area. Do action.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So continue when you're done, dude. Yes, this is awesome.
So,
Uh,
due to the factors of the first case where they had already surrendered, they were already prisoners, their surrender had been accepted, and the sergeant decided to gun them all down. First off, he tried to play temporary insanity, and then only after temporary insanity failed did he try to do the, well, Patton told me to do it argument. So he was sentenced to life in prison. But for the low ranking officer, he was able to play it out such that he was going, yeah, we hadn't accepted their surrender. They had just attacked us moments ago. We got close enough. We didn't accept their surrender. We killed them. And because that was close enough to what Patton said, he was not severely punished. I think he got maybe a month or two on punishments, but that was about it. It was fairly minor for him. And Patton was never charged, though Patton was then relieved of his command in Italy after he slapped two, at the time, shell-shocked troops. And he slapped, grabbed them by the collar, grabbed them by the seat of their pants, and just threw them from the hospitals. Because he was very pissed off, called them cowards, thought that they were malingerers.
dude.
Yeah, there is the idea that Patton might have been assassinated. That is hotly debated.
Oh, with the Jeep where his truck went out.
Well, there's the weirdness of the truck that hit him because it was driven by a soldier who was drunk at the wheel and then
Yeah, but
slammed in.
wasn't it he survived, but then he died a couple days later in the
So he
hospital?
survived the accident, but there's some people that claim that the accident itself was when the assassination happened. But
you know,
then
he's in the hospital. Who knows what happens in there?
there's the more reasonable he might have been assassinated theory, which is when he was in hospital, he was in extremely poor condition for extended period of time. Then he started to make a rather strong recovery to the point where, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, making sure.
Yeah, and then they had to
glitched out for a moment. So
he
was making a recovery, and he was almost to the point where they were going to ship him back stateside for continued treatment because he did have some issues, some additional injuries that they needed to tend to, but he was good enough that they were about to ship him stateside at that time, which it's not like today where shit, let's medevac them across the world because we can do that fairly quickly. Him about to be shipped back home was a good sign of his recovery. And then he suddenly just took a dive. And it was a sharp dive. And the more plausible theory is that that sharp dive was due to an assassin.
Yeah.
Especially since there were a bunch of people that wanted him dead.
Well, even I think it was a few days or weeks before he had started talking about how not only well, no, he started talking about something about the military. So and that's when it's the same thing with Eisenhower. When Eisenhower started talking about the military industrial complex, all of a sudden he started getting into accidents. So I mean,
Well, with Patton, the main reason why people think that he was assassinated was he was extremely vocal about
going
we
after
ended the
Russia.
war too early.
Yep, should have gone to Russia. That was Operation Barbarossa, where we re-equipped the Wehrmacht.
It was by a
And
different name. Barbarossa was the Nazi one.
oh wait, yeah, what was the name where we equipped the
I'm
Germans and
trying to remember. It did have another code name. Patton was a massive proponent of it, but Patton was also a massive proponent of just give me command of the third fucking army
well, dude, he was
and let me
like I said,
have fun.
Patton was fucking crazy. But dude, okay, that
Patton was crazy in the best possible way.
yes, exactly. But okay, this is what I'm saying. Remember when I said earlier, where there's a distinction between shooting up chained up prisoners
Yep,
and holy shit, we're in a war. We need to end this. What's the
yep.
quickest possible way to end this? You
And that
know,
was also part of his. So the speech that people misinterpreted in those incidents, the continuation after he said, I think it was like if he closed within 100 yards, they're dead. They don't get to surrender. They're just fucking dead. And we need to let every enemy that we come in contact with know that if we get within spitting distance of you, you're fucking dead. We're an army of goddamn killers. We're a unit of goddamn killers. We're a fire team of goddamn killers. You fuck with us, we kill you, because he viewed it as a way of shortening the war. Because if you have the reputation of you surrender before we get within spitting distance of you, or you're fucking dead, you have a lot more people going, okay, I surrender,
not
when
only
you're
that, but
way
when
the
you
fuck out.
no, when you think about that viewpoint, right?
Yep.
And I want to go get back to the thing, but when you have that viewpoint, right, where
Mm-hmm.
it's we are the monster that is here, that is we all our job is to stop you. That's it.
Yep.
And your option is advance and die or surrender.
Mm-hmm.
The person who's responsible to correct that are, supposedly our elected peoples, right? So they're supposed to try and get peace out of it. So the people don't have to charge. And if they surrender, it's on the best possible terms for
Mm-hmm.
both sides. The monster's job is just that. It's just to fucking sit there and, yo, if you move on us, we have to
If you don't
respond.
surrender by the time that I'm within spitting distance of you, you're just dead. I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to kill you without any fucking worry to myself. And
And
it's
that's why we should be relying on diplomacy beforehand, before we have to use the beast, right?
you
That's what I
always
mean though.
want the beast to be there, because without the beast, your diplomacy doesn't do a goddamn fucking
Your
thing.
diplomacy has no value. It has
Yeah.
no weight. It has no teeth, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. I think I
When
just went through all
as
three.
when you have that, it's so. Are you familiar with? There's a the stats on domestic abuse, right?
No.
Not know them as in like you can quote there's this number of domestic abuse cases in this instance and this number in that instance. But the general breakdown of the relationship that has the lowest rate of domestic violence is gay men. Then men versus women and women versus men are comparable to each other. And then the highest rate of domestic violence is lesbian women.
Hmm.
And one of the hypotheses about why this is the case is when you're dealing with two men, men learn fairly early on, or boys learn fairly early on, that if you swing on another guy, that guy gets to swing back on you. And he's going to be strong. So every time that you go into a fight, it's almost impossible for you to go into a fight thinking that, oh yeah, I'm going to walk out of this unscathed. No, you go into a fight knowing I'm going to get injured, but I'm probably going to be able to injure them more. And it's that knowledge of the capability of each other that keeps domestic violence rates between men low. This is the theory behind that. Whereas when you're dealing with men versus women, men know what their capability is, and they know that women have a lesser capability. So they tend to control themselves a bit, except for the ones that are vicious bastards. They're the ones that will initiate as men. Women don't know either capability as well because they don't get in as many fights on average as men do. So, and also they know that there's this stigma against hitting a woman, so what's the harm in them slapping someone? They aren't going to slap back, and then they find out that the person does slap back.
Are you ready to get our channel canceled on YouTube?
Oh, for stating the prevalent theory as to why domestic violence rates vary?
Well,
then the theory for the lesbians being the highest is they don't know their own capabilities. They don't have the same level of, if I hit someone, they hit me, and this is bad. And they don't get in as many fights. So that increases the likelihood of them responding physically to a stressor.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, those numbers are impressive. Actually, I didn't think about the gay thing, but then again, I mean, it's in their name that they probably would just be happier with each other. So I mean, I don't know, but
it says gay, they're happy.
They're happy. All right, so that's okay. But no, what I was gonna say is, just as you invoked Patton and you talked about how he was the guy that did what he had to do because he was in a wartime,
Yep.
that was what it was. Recently on Timcast, and I don't know why I've been watching a bunch of Timcast, but his recent videos, I don't know, they've been catching my attention. And recently he was talking about one where they were talking about the indictment of Donald Trump, and he brought up, you know what, we need to, that's fine, because then we can, indict Barack Obama for droning an American citizen in, I think it was Yemen.
Yeah.
And did you see this particular Tim?
I did not see the Timcast of this.
I
just know that the American citizen was drone struck. So
yeah, well, yeah, that did happen. I don't know. Tim's been he seems like he's changing his perspective. This is kind of a nice thing. But he goes, indict Barack Obama for doing the drone strike, and the new long-haired guy with glasses, I don't know his name, he goes, oh, well, why would you do that? He was trying to do a precision strike and blah, blah, blah. And Tim Pool's like, no, that's
strike on an American citizen. Yes.
Yeah. He's like, but Tim Pool's like, no, but that, we weren't at war with Yemen and this and that. And so they started talking about war crimes and the different types of tactics. And I remember Tim had talked earlier about Sherman. and his march through Georgia, making Georgia howl, and how it was a horrific thing and blah blah blah. And they brought up a point where Sherman had one of his subordinates blow up a bridge as slave refugees were following, and it's like I don't I don't think you understand. At that point, like that was the tactic to get them to stop.
Yeah,
like that
there's
like that was what they had to do to stop them. They had to cut straight through and do it in such a quick pace that they couldn't support people following them. They couldn't support. They didn't have a supply chain. You know, the, it, the oh they were robbing places. Yeah, they had to live off the land. That was the point. It was to make the civilian population not want the war anymore because it was affecting them.
yep.
In the first person, like they were right there. They weren't at the battlefields of Antietam. They weren't at the battlefields of fucking uh oh man. I can't fucking I'm gonna I want to say Gettysburg, but not Gettysburg. But you get my point. They weren't there. So these people are now experiencing it firsthand, and they were the producers of a lot of portion of this war. So that was the whole point of it.
Hmm.
And as horrible as it was, dude. And as you can say as horrible as Sherman was, he for his viewpoints, for sure. This is the time of the day, that.
Yeah, there's tactics that are really fucking effective and really goddamn vicious.
And I can't even say didn't. Oh my god, I'm gonna sound really retarded. Didn't Napoleon do this shit before?
Oh,
Right?
Napoleon did all kinds of shit.
Yeah,
Napo-
no, this was Napoleon's tactic, right?
yeah, there
Just
was all
the pre-Blitzkrieg tactic,
yeah,
where
there was all kinds of shit that was being done throughout human history when it came to wars. They were effective goddamn
the
strategies.
fucking
They
Mongols did it.
weren't fair, they weren't pleasant, they weren't meant to be nice to their enemy.
But in
Well,
terms of warfare, they were effective.
and actually I have to strike that when I say that they weren't meant to be nice to their enemy, because some of these tactics actually do end up saving lives
Yeah,
as a
because
whole.
there's places where they're like, okay, we don't want it. What do what do you want?
Yeah,
You see that a
like it
lot in
was,
Alexander's time.
and it was something that the Mongols did a lot, where
Yes,
if the Mongols came to your city and you didn't surrender, your city's fucking dead.
and dead, not. Oh, we're just gonna occupy. No, they're dead.
Yeah,
Baghdad comes to mind.
your city is
No.
completely sacked. The crimes that happen in your city's streets are goddamn near unspeakable. But as fucked up as it is, you know what happens the next city that they go to?
They
The
say,
gates
hey,
are open, motherfucker. Here,
what you want?
we surrender. What do you need? What do you want?
And it sucks. It really does suck. But
Yeah.
well, in terms of the Mongols, there were a lot of times where armies fought them before,
Yep.
so they had their chance, they lost. But in terms of like going back to Civil War and with Sherman, it's a different time period, so he might have encountered a few bands of armies here or there, but that was the whole point.
Yep.
Was your goal is to disrupt all connections all through Georgia, get to the coast, and stop them just like they did with the Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole point. It's battle strategy, but it's nothing like sending a drone out to kill um, some random family member of a guy and say, "Hey, you see, I can get you over here." Like that's way different.
See, I slightly disagree with what you just said. I want the ability to reach out and touch a person, regardless of where the fuck they are. And I want everyone to know that I have the ability to
Oh
reach out
yeah,
and
no,
touch
yeah.
them
But
wherever the fuck
that's
they are.
I would say that's more Kolo Samiyami or whatever the fuck his name is. Not some random fucking kid
Yeah.
of a dude.
And then the way that it should be known is if you surrender and you surrender early, you're treated remarkably well. You are held in a place that's comfortable, you are treated well, you're provided for while you're within captivity. And that should be the way it is when you surrender early. If you make us fight you, you're fucking dead. And make that known fucking everywhere, because then anyone that thinks that they have a chance of losing, they're more likely to go, I surrender. Like if going back to the age of sail, if you knew that there was a pirate that if your ship surrendered, every sailor on board of that ship was paid their wage, just everything on the ship was taken, and there were left enough food to make it home, versus if you made them chase you, if you made them fight you, everything was taken. No food was left for you. You were gutted and dead.
Yeah.
You see that particular pirate on the horizon. Are you going to flee? Or are you going to go, okay, run up the white?
Well, I mean, you saw that with when sieges happen, and it's, hey, if you made us siege you for a month, we're gonna go and burn a shit ton more than we would have if you just let us come in. But that's again, hey, it's that
You need to
that's
put the incentives
warfare.
in the
Like,
right place. Well, no,
yeah,
it's not just warfare. That's fucking everything. You need to put the incentives in the right place. Because if you have the incentives in the right place, shit works out better. And if you have the disincentives in the right place, shit works out better. It's the reason why so much of what's going on pisses me off, because we put the incentives in the wrong place. Oh, you can get more money if you don't work than if you do. Why the fuck would someone work? You're incentivizing them not to work. Explain to me, why the fuck would someone work if they can get more by not working than they can
ah,
by working?
no, okay, well, no, I that's it's that's old warfare, I guess you can say, because you're right. It doesn't, because by what I was saying, it wouldn't make sense to nuke cities. You need the cities to
Yep.
operate to run. So yeah, no, yeah, but now we're moving into like
But
now we're
occasionally
moving
nuking
into fifth
city,
dimensional
that
warfare where
makes
like
the war
information
end
warfare
quicker.
and shit. Yeah. Well, I was talking purely back on, we were talking Patton and then I brought it to
Yep.
Sherman. So I was talking purely on Sherman. And
But even
yeah,
then,
no, I was being,
sometimes nuking a city, or at that time, burning a city,
well, burning
effective
a
way of
path.
winning the war.
Yeah, burning a path down Georgia. It was there, um and again, hey, for World War II, two nukes,
Hmm.
you know, or we could have just thrown wave after
Had
wave of people.
millions of men die.
We could have had a Vietnam and Japan.
It would have been millions of men die, especially since I think the conservative estimate for US deaths was something like 1 million men,
Yeah.
1 million to 1.5 million men. And the most conservative, I have to stress that again, estimate was that it would be at least twice that of Japanese. And do you know what the worst case scenario was?
Oh no. Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading the chat.
So
There's a
Cannibalistic
lot of
saying
good.
that it was 1
Yeah.
million was the best case scenario, and he's saying that 5 million Japanese was the worst case scenario. Do you know, or the best case scenario? Do you know what the worst case scenario was for Japanese deaths?
What's that?
Over 14 million. And actually, that's not really the worst case scenario. That's the worst case when you're just counting Japanese military. Because counting all the Japanese troops and all the conscripted troops from the areas that they had taken, they had 14 million people. That's not including the civilian population. Add in the civilian population, and you end up with a fuck ton higher than 14 million. So we looked at that and we went, nuke them. And now we have schmucks looking at the war going, that was a war crime. How could the U.S. nuke civilian population? Because it saved an ungodly number of people's lives.
Dude, well, see, and that's the funny thing is, well, going back to the Tim Pool thing, because he was saying the indictment of President Trump would set a precedent, say, to indict other presidents. And
Yep.
then that's why he was like, okay, so let's, indict Barack Obama. Goofy long haired dude was like, you shouldn't do that because he didn't do anything. And then they shot him down, and he tried to go back with, well, what about so and so? And they were just like, well, yeah, all of them. Go down the list. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, this motherfucker would actually sit there and indict like President Lincoln. And it's like, he was in a war. I
Mm-hmm.
you know, I hate, I don't like that the nukes were dropped, but they had to be dropped.
Yeah.
like sometimes there's shit that has to be done.
Yep. I don't like that it had to be done. But if I had the choice of doing it or not doing it in the situation that we had,
Yeah,
do
yes,
it
exactly.
100% of the time.
Yes, we are talking about wartime, not people chained up to trees and getting mowed down. Like
Yep.
two completely different things. In a wartime, yes, like, uh, but again, he's slowly getting it. I think he's slowly getting there to where it's like, okay, dude, you
Yeah.
you can split it off.
The stance that I've had for a while is if your enemy changes something or your opposition changes something in a way that you're going, don't change it. That's a bad idea. Don't change it. And they do anyways. Remember exactly how many times they use it. Do that many times plus one.
Dude,
And
well,
then change it back and tell them, don't you fucking change this again.
just like we were talking about the Mongols earlier, how would you respond to the Mongols? Would you sit there and try and, oh, well, maybe we should negotiate? Oh, we shouldn't do. It's like, no, if you have a means to get them to fucking stop,
Yep.
you get them to fucking stop. like,
Yep.
like you're not in a, oh man, he bothers me every, 2 to 3 times a week, and it's really dude, this motherfucker's like encroaching on you, encroaching,
And encroach.
encroaching. Ah, he's advancing on your
Yep.
territories. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do? Like, he doesn't give a shit about you. He's building walls with your
Unless
skulls.
you can unless you can beat them, you do what you can.
Yeah.
And this is something that was done in England during the Norse invasion, also sometimes just called the Viking invasion of England. You had this entire situation where everyone fucking knew that if you needed time in order to get a large enough army in order to defeat the Vikings, you paid the Danegeld. If you were just paying the Danegeld to get rid of them, that didn't fucking work. You
Nope.
had to pay the Danegeld with a plan in place. Because if you pay the Dane Guild, you'll never be rid of the Dane.
No, they're gonna just
But if
be
you
there.
pay the Dane Guild once so that you buy a season and you know for a fucking fact that after that season you'll have an army that's able to take them on, fucking do it. Do it, buy your piece for that one season, and then raise the army that you need and make it so that you don't have to pay the Dane Guild ever again. That's the way that it was done. That was the way that it made fucking sense.
Wow, dude, we went all over the fucking world.
Yeah. And this is something that has been shown throughout history, that a show of force that is sufficiently savage does wonders for winning a war.
And hey, you want to talk about how it could also be the downfall? Look at the Aztecs. They dominated by that type of brutal means. But then once a stronger power came in, everybody who was under their control, they were like, oh shit, fuck that. Yeah,
Yep.
let's go with the stronger power.
Because what they did was they didn't do the one show of force in order to subdue shit. They did constant brutality.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, it was a yearly thing.
Yep,
Hey, guess what?
constant brutality does not earn loyalty.
No,
Constant
it's
brutality,
just fear.
yeah, it just earns fear. And Machiavelli was wrong when he said, well, he wasn't really wrong. He was satirizing someone, and most people don't realize that he was satirizing someone.
Well, I also don't think he probably thought of, technology. I hate to say it, but like it was a weaker force,
Yeah,
but they
but
were
the
stronger technologically.
thing that everyone quotes Machiavelli for is from The Prince. If you have the choice of being loved or feared, choose feared.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they don't realize that Machiavelli was writing that in order to appease someone who was a fucking tyrant. And the entire time, it was kind of a jab at the tyrant for being a ridiculous tyrant, while also writing something that sounded pleasant enough that he wouldn't get fucking killed. But the way that you do it is you're vicious to your enemies and generous to your allies. And if someone is willing to surrender, you make sure that they're treated well. Because if they surrender and everyone knows that you treat people that surrender well, oh, good God, will more people surrender, saving you from having to fight them.
I mean, that works in areas where, like, it works when you're not dealing with zealot type fighters.
Well, zealots won't surrender.
When you're gonna capture them, like not surrender. They're gonna be captured.
Yeah,
So
and I'm saying that no, capture is not an option. I'm saying that when you're dealing with a zealot force, then you look at history and see when people have actually managed to deal with death cultist zealots, which there's one really good example of people dealing with actually two really good examples of people dealing with death cultist zealots.
You kill them.
Look at the Aztecs and what happened to the Aztecs.
Yeah.
Look at the Thuggies and what happened to the Thuggies.
They're not going to stop, so, shit.
Yeah. That's the only proven way to deal with that. Look at the Aztecs, look at the Thuggies. Look how they were handled. Because the Thuggies were eradicated. The Aztecs were eradicated. And there's a good fucking reason for both of those.
They ate hearts?
Well, the Aztecs, they brutalized everyone, ate hearts, cut out hearts and various other organs. Just did absolutely monstrous shit to anyone that they got their hands on. The Thuggies didn't like to spill blood, but they were the Stranglers. Are you familiar with the Thuggies at all?
Oh, what the fuck is a Thuggy?
Thuggies were Kali cultists. So do you know who Kali is?
No.
Okay. So in the Hindu pantheon, you have a shit ton of various gods and goddesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have one goddess who was the goddess of war and justice, Durga. Ridiculously capable and insanely strong warrior. So at one point, there was a massive uprising of Rishaka, which are the Hindu demons. And they were led by this one Hindu demon that every time that his blood was spilled, a copy of him would pop up at the spot where the drop of blood hit the ground. Making it goddamn terrifying fighting him. Because if you cut him, suddenly you're fighting 2 of him. If you cut him again, you're fighting 3 of him. If you cut him again, you're fighting 4 of him. So on and so forth. Just absolutely ridiculous battle. So all the gods got together to wage this war against the Rishaka. And when they did, Durga, being the goddess of justice and war, was one of the chief gods or goddesses in the fight. So she waged into the battle, and she fought as hard as she could. She whirled, she spun, she stabbed, she clove, she tossed her... She had a chakram that in one hand. She tossed that around and slew demon after demon after demon, and then she got toe-to-toe with the leader of the demons. And she fought him. And then she fought 2 of him. And then 3 of him, and then 4 of him, and 5 of him, and 6 of him, and 7 of him, and 8 of him, and 9 of him, and 10 of him, until she was fighting hundreds of him, and she got worn down. She was completely exhausted and in absolute rage. And in that rage, she changed. Her skin blackened. Her body twisted. Her tongue widened, her tongue elongated. Everything about her changed until she was blacker than pitch, blacker than coal, blacker than the blackest thing that you can think of, blacker than the depths of space. With a brilliantly red tongue, brilliantly red eyes. And then she attacked again. She cut the demon, and when the demon's blood flew away and was falling towards the ground, before it hit the ground, her tongue snapped out, caught the drop of blood, and she swallowed it. And she cut him again and caught that drop of blood. Cut him again, caught that drop of blood. Cut him again, caught that drop of blood. Every drop of blood that was spilled from the demon, she ended up swallowing. until she slew the first, and then the second, and then the third, and the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth, until she had slain the entire demon army. And she still wanted to fight more. It took all the gods dealing with her in order to subdue her enough and calm her enough that again Kali turned to Durga. Kali is the goddess of destruction, the goddess of death, the goddess of the carnage of war. Not the goddess of warfare, but the goddess of the carnage of war. So, there's a bunch of different groups within the Hindu religion. Some of them end up being henotheistic. Are you familiar with that term?
No.
So you have monotheism, where they believe in only one god. There's no other god but that one god, right?
Yep.
And then you have polytheism, which there's a shit ton of gods, and they worship all the
They worship
various
that
gods.
strange outer person, right?
Well, depending on the version of polytheism, there's a whole bunch of different polytheistic religions and polytheistic gods. But polytheism, there's a selection of gods and goddesses that you worship multiple or all of them. You're familiar with that term, of course.
Yeah.
So, henotheism is the middle point between those two, where there's a shit ton of gods, but there's only one that you worship.
Oh.
So there's a bunch of different cults within Hinduism that are henotheistic cults.
Wait.
Yes. What am I waiting for?
So polytheism is they worship all of them, right?
They worship all or many. They might not worship all of them. Like, for instance, when you look at Greek mythology, you had Athenians worshipped Athena more than they did Ares.
But would they recognize, say, Thasian gods?
So with polytheism, it depends on the polytheistic tradition. Polytheistic just means that there's multiple gods, and then you worship all the gods within that pantheon. When you look at Hinduism, Hinduism has quite the noted history of they hear about another god or goddess from something else, and they go, oh yeah, they're in our pantheon now too.
Okay, so what's
to include there's a Jesus in Hinduism, in certain sects of Hinduism, rather. Not in all of Hinduism. But certain sects of Hinduism treat Jesus as a god as well.
But what was the one that you were?
So I was talking about Hinduism, and I was talking about how Hinduism has a bunch of henotheistic cults. So you'll have a cult of Shiva, where the only god that they worship in Hinduism is they worship Shiva. And you'll have the cult of Vishnu, and you'll have the cult of insert Hindu god Durga. You'll have so on and so forth.
What were you saying about the one between the two?
That's henotheism. Henotheism is there's a bunch of gods within the pantheon, but only one is worshipped. So a henotheistic cult to Shiva will still acknowledge that Ganesh is a god, but they never pray to Ganesh. They'll still recognize Vishnu, but they'll never pray to Vishnu. But one of the henotheistic cults was a cult to Kali, which was then dubbed the Thuggies. And the Thuggies being a henotheistic cult to a death goddess, their worship was murdering people. But because one of the main facets of that story that I just told you about Kali was she didn't allow a single drop of blood to hit the ground in order to show proper obeisance to their goddess. They wouldn't spill any blood. So what they did was they were also known as the Stranglers. They had these specially designed strangler scarves, which were either made of particularly strong fabric. Some of them had bits of cable woven into the fabric. And they would have a pouch sewn into one end of their scarf so that they could slip a coin into the end of their scarf, whip it around someone's neck, catch it on the other side, and then garrote the person to death with the scarf. They were an absolute terror in Imperial India. So the native Indians wanted to get rid of the thuggies because the thuggies kept on fucking murdering them. The English wanted to get rid of the thuggies because the thuggies kept on fucking murdering them. So the English and the Indians, in one of the few times of agreement, went, so, you in agreement? We're fucking killing these cunts? And they both said yes, and they fucking murdered all of them. They hunted down every last thuggy. So,
Damn.
they were death cultists, or death cult that was then dealt with savagely and dealt with efficiently. So it went from being a constant terror of Imperial India to now they're just an interesting story of history of that one time that the English and the Indians decided to exterminate a death cult.
And see, that's why it's like, I don't understand why people can't accept the realization that there are monsters and they possess humans and they do horrible things.
Mm-hmm.
And
the only problem that I have with that idea is that it takes the responsibility away from the person to a certain degree. I would say that there's monsters and that there's people that are them, rather than that the monsters take over the people.
Oh no, it's a metaphor, man. You know.
I know, but I'm saying that a lot of people will take that metaphor literally, and they'll then use well, it's not my fault. It was a monster. No, it was your fault.
Oh well, no, that's also another sign of the monster. They're fucking dumb. So it's kind of
traits of a monster: murderous
yeah.
and retarded.
And then fucking you're dumb because you snap. Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, okay, well, you were dumb enough to fucking succumb. There you go. Fucking, but no, that's why I don't understand why people have a hard time being just on their, like their comeuppance.
Mm-hmm.
If you caught them doing this, why do we need them on this planet anymore? Shoot them off.
And that's also one of the things that drives me crazy whenever I hear people arguing about, well, we need to be merciful to criminals. And I'm going, no,
why?
first off, no. And second off, Okay, so what do you mean by mercy? Because to me,
And then what about the
the
people that they killed or harmed? Like,
so there's a quote from Adam Smith that I find absolutely poignant on this topic. And it's mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent. And you see this when you look at all the areas that try to be merciful to the guilty. Oh, you have to understand they're from a bad neighborhood, so they shouldn't serve jail time, and then they get released and they commit another crime against someone who is innocent. And it pisses me off because, to my mind, justice is the proper response. Justice is neither mercy nor is it cruelty. Justice is just justice.
yeah, it is what it is.
And that should be the response. Not mercy, not cruelty, justice. Also,
Oh wait, okay.
pisses me.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Real hot tip. Let's fucking shock it up, dude. Did you see the video? I think it was in Baltimore, of the police officer coming out of his car, and there was a dude pulls a woman to the ground, has a knife and is about to stab her, and then the police officer fucking just unloads, uh, probably his old clip.
Mhm.
Have you seen that video?
I have not.
Oh shit. Well, I don't know if I can.
So, as someone that attacked a woman right in front of a cop and the cop drilled
Well,
him,
he
fucking
was
good.
he was driving up, and it's body cam footage, and you see this guy, pull this woman to the ground, and you see the knife, and he's about to stab her, and the cop fucking unloads on him, and you still see comments out there like, but did he have to really keep, like? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, what the fuck do you think this lady's thinking?
Yep.
She was about to be
It's
fucking butchered. Are you fucking kidding me?
it's like
Like,
the video that I found the most ridiculous that people flipped out about. And what's the feckless fucking basketball player that was bitching and moaning during the Black Lives Matter? It was LeBron, wasn't it? Or is LeBron the one that's dead?
oh, yeah, with the helicopter crash. I can't
LeBron's the
remember.
one that was dead. So it was the other one that was. What the fuck is that basketball player's name?
Was he? I didn't know he was white. I didn't,
Is it
I didn't even
LeBron
notice.
James is the one that's alive,
Oh,
Doctor? Because
oh,
I always confuse basketball players' names because I don't watch basketball. But
maybe it's Kobe Bryant. Yeah, Kobe.
Kobe was the helicopter. Okay, LeBron was the one talking shit.
Yes,
Okay, so
apologies.
like I said, wanted to make sure I was accusing the right person of the right bit of insanity. So there was a video of the one girl that was shot by the cops as she was mid stabbing of another girl.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And people were pissed off that he shot a little girl. She was about to stab another girl in the fucking neck. I sure as shit hope he shot her. It pisses me off. And the thing that really pisses me off is anytime that I hear someone say, well, they can't help it. Oh, okay, they can't help it? Kill them. If they can't help it, kill them. If they can help it, then yeah, send them to prison, have them get punished, and then go through the process of rehabilitation. If there is no way for them not to be a vicious bastard, kill them.
Well, I don't know, man. An example of an example of that is that, what was that one guy who um went to the lady's house who had a restraining order on him, and then she called the cops on him.
Oh, you're talking about the Waukesha incident.
Yeah, and what was it? He was gonna grab a knife, and they
He
shot
had a
him.
knife. He
Well,
had a
yeah,
knife. He was climbing into the vehicle to kidnap the children within the vehicle.
yeah, but no, but he got paralyzed, and then didn't he sue?
Yeah, he tried to sue.
Yeah, so it's like, dude, this is the thing, and or even the guy who was shooting at a apartment, and the lady was hiding with her kids. And then
Yep.
there was protests like the next day because hey, you shouldn't have shot this guy. And the lady's like, dude, he was shooting at my fucking apartment. Like, dude, people have lost their fucking minds on this shit. Like
Yeah.
they've literally lost their fucking minds on this.
And like I
This
said, it comes down to if the person is completely incapable of not being violent, kill him.
yeah, no, but it's like my
Because it
thing
makes
is,
no sense to just hold them in prison. It makes no sense to put them in an asylum if there's no way that this person can ever be anything but a vicious bastard.
hey,
Just
well,
remove them.
I would say stricter prison or bring back mental asylums if there really
Oh
is
yeah,
a mental issue with a lot of these people, because I mean,
we
I'm just thinking like there was that guy with the knife that kept charging at the cops, and
yep.
they had to just taser him a bunch of times, and it's like if these people really are suffering mentally, we need to get them help. We need to get them
Oh yeah,
help.
and that's
But
the thing that if it's a mental issue, I do want there to be asylums again. I
but
want that to happen because those are important, and our current method of handling it is completely inadequate.
exactly, dude,
If they
exactly.
are going to serve a prison sentence because they made a choice. It wasn't that they were always just going to be a vicious bastard, and it wasn't that they could never be anything but a vicious bastard. It was just they made the wrong fucking choice. Then they go to prison. They need to be dealt with appropriately. They need to serve their sentence. And if they're ever deemed possible to be released, they need to be rehabilitated. But like I said, if it's does not matter what treatment you give them, does not matter what punishment, does not matter what boon, they will always be a vicious bastard. Kill
I mean, in the circumstance, yes. Like when we're looking at it, like those instances that we were talking about, right? Where
Yep.
they unloaded. Yes, I really I don't understand the reasoning for people to say, hey, but did they really have to go all out? Couldn't they have done something else? It's like, dude, they just saved somebody from
Yep. And
mortal
oh,
harm. Like
just to
that's
make
not
sure
a
just to make sure that my position is understood appropriately. I do not think that there are all that many people that are just always destined to be vicious bastards.
oh yeah, no. But
I think
when
that
you run
people
across
choose
them,
to be vicious bastards. I think there are some of them that were always destined, and I do think those people kill them.
dude,
If it's
yes,
anyone else, then they get the treatment that's most appropriate for their situation.
that's what I mean. Like when you're in a circumstance where you're actively watching somebody committing an attempted murder, I don't think it's too far off to say, yeah, if you stop that person and that person dies, oh, well, I mean,
Nothing of value was lost.
they were trying to murder somebody. Like, it's not a bad. And and in terms of the other thing, it's like if the person is like this person had convicted the murder, I don't see a reason why it's not a bad thing to, why keep him alive in a prison? We know he had a bunch of heads in a refrigerator. Like,
Yep.
it's, it's pretty cut and dry at this
And that's
point.
why I've said many times that I'm pro death penalty, but I think that it should be extremely strict in who qualifies for death
Oh
penalty.
yeah, dude, yeah.
Mass
Extreme
shooter,
scrutiny.
absolutely. Mass shooter, death row.
Dude, yeah.
Serial killer, death row. Schmuck that killed someone in an armed robbery, no, not death row.
Yeah, or guy who's selling I would even go guy who's selling heroin on the corner. Death row? No, he's fucking selling heroin. Just keep him in jail. Like what the fuck? I can
But
understand the fentanyl kinda because I guess fentanyl is kind of scary. But
it's the dose that makes the poison. There's actually a therapeutic level of fentanyl.
I don't even know anything about it. I just
Oh, there is actually a therapeutic level. It was so fentanyl has an actual prescription variant of it because what it's used for is cancer patients, especially late stage cancer patients, tend to be in absolutely horrendous levels of pain. You know about that, right?
yes.
So what happens is that as you're taking a any med, your body slowly builds up resistance to it. This includes narcotics. So if you're on morphine for your insane cancer related pain, as your life goes on, you get more and more resistant to the morphine until at a certain point, morphine doesn't really have an effect on you. So, one of the ways that you go about that is you then give them a stronger med. Fentanyl and carfentanil can be prescribed in the case of chronic pain for cancer, where it is extreme pain. They've become resistant to everything else. You give them fentanyl because you can give them a lower dose of fentanyl and have it have the same effect. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So it does actually have a therapeutic dose. It does have a proper dosage. The problem is that people are putting it in way too high of concentration and they're using it recreationally rather than properly dosed medically.
Well, honestly, I've never understood the draw into that type of hardcore stuff, but you know I'm sure people have their demons that they I guess they control with these vices. I remember living out in Washington and seeing some people on I saw one person on bath salts and I've seen a couple of people on the old meth, and it's not pretty.
The problem is that it doesn't, they're self medicating, but the medicine is worse than the problem. The only thing that it does is it makes it so that they can't feel either.
Yeah. And
So
just
they
even
become
hearing.
numb. It does them an insane amount of damage, but because they're numb to it, it seems a decent trade.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's what I mean. Like, hey, yo, I'm not gonna lie, I like my weed, but I never thought of going anything crazier. And you hear things like there's stuff like called trank, and supposedly you can turn into like a zombie if you take trank while you're on fentanyl. I mean,
See, I was thinking of the what is it? Crocodile? Was that the name of it?
I don't know, man.
It was the drug out of old Soviet nations that it would cause a hardening of the skin, would cause ridiculous lesions, like body parts would start falling off. It was or it was chemically induced leprosy, damn near.
I
It was
mean,
fucked up.
I would hope the high was worth it. Holy shit.
Yeah, it was fucked up shit. That it was like in large part an escharotic, which causes horrendous scarring and damage to tissues. It was just really fucked up. But that was something that became big at one point, that it was being smuggled into the US and causing all sorts of problems. It was a very strange situation. But it is about that time, and it sounds like we're
Oh.
slightly running out of topics. Would you agree?
Um, I mean,
Or do you have a topic that you want to jump into?
I don't know. I don't know how we could recover from from our drug-induced topics that we just talked about. Shit. Oh no. Hey, are you gonna see the Mario movie?
Uh, Probably not in theaters. I don't really go to theaters very often now. What
Uh,
about you?
I kind of want to see it. It really does look pretty nice, and I don't know. You know, something nice and positive coming out
Hmm.
is it's kind of nice. So
Let me know how it is. And I do have to correct one thing, Assassin. When you said that they were from the fentanyl laced weed, there's also a shit ton that are from fentanyl laced perks and various other narcs. There was a
perks and ducks.
there was a massive instance. I can't remember how many people it was, but it was I want to say it was in Ohio. It was something like 3 or 4 people died of spiked perks.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked when they said that there was weed laced with it. That I was like, oh fuck.
Yep. Oh
I
yeah, they
mean,
are chemical poisonings. I'm just saying that when you said that it was weed laced with fentanyl, I was saying, nah, it's not just weed, it's other things laced with fentanyl as well. There's a shit ton of things that are being laced with fentanyl. Perks, other narcotics, weed, coke has been laced with fentanyl before, crack, shit ton of different things that have been poisoned with fentanyl.
damn, dude.
Which is
That's
why it is a fucked up thing, and it needs addressing. It isn't being addressed. And while I
well,
say that it needs addressing, I'm also looking at the people that we have in power, and I'm going, they aren't at all fit to address the situation.
no. They are. They gave Velma a fucking gold medal or whatever. So we're all good. We're good.
Like I said,
Oh no.
they aren't fit to purpose, and it pisses me off. I hope that eventually we get better people, but and the House has been doing a better job than other groups, but yeah, it's still just what the fuck. But like I said, it's about 20 minutes out from the 30. Shall we just go to parting words and call it a
Sure.
night?
Sure.
You want to go for your parting words first?
Okay. My parting words. Hi. This is your
My parting words. Hi.
You messed up my groove.
Sorry, that just caught me. That got me just right. Parting words. Hi.
Hi. I hope you had a good evening.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll leave off with my standard of if you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you. And with that, have a good night, all. The zoo is closed.
Bye.
And now to click this and wait until it actually clicks